Every single day, people take unwanted or unused items to thrift and antique stores across the country. But as the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and we're here to prove it. Identify valuable things before you throw them away. Join us as we show and tell of treasures found and sold by a full-time reseller with the hopes of helping you find some treasures of your own. Welcome to the What's Sold podcast.
Welcome to the What's Sold podcast. I am Brandon with my friend Matt. Today, actually, Matt couldn't be here, so we decided to bring on his cousin Rusty,
Yeah.
who people have been clamoring for. We constantly get these messages where people are like, remember Mary? She's like, I had no idea that you were not cousin
Right.
Rusty.
Yep.
So we had a question on the YouTube channel, which both you and I are. It's funny because we just upload the podcast onto YouTube pretty much unedited, and it's amazing how many more people find it through that. YouTube is such a powerful channel, but
Oh man, so many users.
so many users and so many people that are looking for information, and we get way more comments on YouTube than anywhere else. But somebody said, hey, whatever happened to Peaches?
Yeah.
And I said, no, Peaches is alive and well. He just lives 1,500 miles away from where Matt is, so it's hard.
Well, technically he's alive. He's suspended in a vat of. He's got some electrodes. It's keeping his heart pumping, and his beard's still growing. It's all the way down to his knees now, which is nice. But no, he's alive. You know, he is not a full-time reseller in real life. He is a part-time reseller, and the main reason he's not been a part of videos recently is that there have been no videos in like the last 3 months. I've been super neglectful of creating videos, and it was
Shame on you, Matt.
I
Shame
know.
on you.
Listen, this is not an excuse. Well, maybe this is an excuse. This is a reason. You know, it was like it hit Thanksgiving, busy with family. Then you've got kind of tying up stuff with the kids in the school year. You got in this month of December, in my personal life, my daughter's birthday, my wife's birthday, our anniversary, Christmas, New Year's. I mean, they all hit in
Trips to
sequence.
Mexico City.
We went to Mexico City. I got food poisoning. Then my daughter comes home with the flu. I had the flu for 11 days. Then I got a hernia, and I had to have hernia surgery.
Wait, and then
so
you're missing
here
a
I
big
am.
one, Matt.
What's the big one?
A hurricane hit us and shut us down.
Oh yeah, of course. That was prior to November. Yeah, so that was
know.
October. That was September 27th, right? So basically, from September 27th. Now, I did do some videos to try to get the word out to the world about like what we encountered. And it's interesting that you mentioned the hurricane because we're going to come back around to that topic later in the show. You don't know why yet, but we will.
I like a mystery, a tease.
But all that to say, I've been bad. And for anyone who has ever created content, podcasting or YouTube videos and things, it is a rhythm that you have to get into.
Yeah.
And once you get back into it, it is like riding a bike. But if you get out of that rhythm, it is difficult to get back in it, especially when you have lots of other work. Like I make my money, I make a living from what I buy and sell. That's how I make my living. I don't make my living from the content I create. It's fun to do it. I'm glad to give that information out. It was the impetus for us creating this podcast and all of that. But, you know, it takes time. And I have to come up not only with the idea of it, but I have to record it. I have to edit it. I have to get it out at a certain time. And so all that to say, everyone's saying, just shut up and make a video. All right, I'm going to. I promise you I'm going to make some more videos soon. And I will get Peaches out of the back, have him put down the dustpan and the broom.
Like the
and
GIF.
get out there.
Like the GIF. Bring out the GIF.
Get out here. So, yeah. So thank you for those who are interested in seeing more. There is more to come. I've just been, listen, I'm a fallible person, you know?
Well, let's talk. There's a little bit to that too. And again, for Troll 734, who's now mad that we're not talking about how to make their life easier.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of two ways to do a lot of this content creation, and there's a quadrillion people out there. By the way, there are 750 million. That's not an exaggeration. It's not like say there are millions of them. There literally are millions of podcasts. So finding an audience with a podcast is a challenge. And so there's really two ways to do it. There's the way we did it, which is hang a shingle out. You had a presence. People knew you and sort of found the show. But then there's you have a backing behind you. You're on iHeartMedia, or you're a famous musician or famous, or or you're already famous. You were sort of quasi because you had a following, but it's not the same as is. So basically the point being is that we've bootstrapped this whole thing. This has been us working on this with the idea of wanting to do something fun, create something cool, which I think that we're doing, but creating content takes time. Every one of these shows that we do takes in the neighborhood of between 4 and 8 hours. And that's not an exaggeration. Now you guys are like, what? You two idiots. It's just a lot that goes into it. And that does not include all the time that Matt spends out on the road doing what he's doing. My job is to sort of remove as much of that stuff from Matt as possible, because this show is about helping people. I've been thinking about that.
That's what we want. That's what we hope.
I've interrupted myself there because a couple of people have said, hey, thanks. It's nice to hear from other small business owners. That's kind of what we're doing. It is about being an aftermarket
We're ramping
merchant.
up. We want to do more of that.
Yeah.
And we want to get people who are involved in the buying and selling world, but also just I feel like there are so many business people, professionals out there in a variety of categories or realms out there that have useful information for you. And pat yourself on the back, listeners, because you were some of the first. We hope to be doing this for a while. Who knows if we'll ever expand that much, but we've been doing it for about a year now, right?
And just a little over a year.
And that's, it sounds like a lot of time, but also it's not.
Right.
So we've got a lot more, I think, to bring. And you named
it. We have had a lot of things go on in that year.
Correct.
So it's been a jam-packed year full of stuff. And so we're trying to bring more content that is not just about buying and selling on eBay, but Matt and I have talked a lot about expanding the empire a little bit, because one of the problems that Matt has run into, and Matt talked about it in detail, about being limited to eBay, that if eBay decides to do something to you, i.e. they can do it, they're a massive organization, you are sort of at their beck and call.
Right, and we don't have to pick on eBay necessarily, but It's true. The premise is that it's true of any platform that you're utilizing, but you don't have control over, right? So you're underneath their policies or their whims,
right?
And they don't have to be accurate with their decisions, or if they think you've done something wrong, they don't have to be right. It doesn't matter, because they govern themselves. And the reason I've used that platform is because it has such a large user base. And I know it will be difficult, and it will be it'll be a transitional period if I move away from that. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but that is, it doesn't have to be them, but this is for anybody who's out there using Etsy, or you're using, any of these different platforms. You likely, if you've used them long enough, you likely have encountered some things you're like, I wouldn't have done it that way, or that didn't help me.
Right.
And you're not the purveyor of your destiny here. You're putting that in someone else's hands, and you're paying them as well. So
yeah. Well, there's an interesting part of that as a small business owner. I think everybody needs to take this into account. What happens a lot of times is not under your control. So if we were going to upload a lot of these things to Facebook, and Facebook, in their algorithm and the bots, the matrix, shut us down. They said, you guys are not, and we're like, wait, what? And we can't call anybody. We can't say, oh, but we're just showing items that we've sold. We're not trying to do anything shady. There's no way that we're absolutely under the control of Facebook or YouTube or whatever. So if YouTube tomorrow decided they weren't going to show any free videos, that would be the end of it. So it's the same thing if you're a supplier. Like, let's say that you go to, as a reseller, you go to like 3 different, vintage shops or stores or, secondhand stores or whatever, and then 2 of them shut down because of a hurricane. Well, that you have no control over that. Now you're not able to get those goods anymore, and it just changes everything. And that could be, if you are selling anything, your supplier could shut you down tomorrow.
Yeah, and that wasn't just a made-up story. You're describing my life, because that exact thing has happened to me, and I've had to make adjustments, for better, for worse, because, if I don't make adjustments, then my only other option is to find a completely different field, a completely different job. But if I want to keep doing this, and that sort of forced my hand, right? But I think even in the absence of a dramatic event like that we don't have control over, we should always be working to try to make our business better, find out ways to advance, or it doesn't have to be driven by, I just got to make more and that kind of thing. It could just be, how can I do what I'm doing more efficient and make life easier for myself? Like, everyone wants to make more and work less, right?
Yeah. Well,
so if there's a way that you can be more efficient so that more earnings come in, and it doesn't require any more work. You just have to put some thought behind it, and there's some planning there and some adjustment. And I still have to do that. In my own business, there are weak spots. There are some cracks in the facade, that I need to patch. Oh yeah, for sure. Like the biggest one right now is expanding storage space. I have a little bit of a space problem. And, originally, back before the hurricane, I might think, well, I'll just go find a storage building. Now it's not so sure I can trust being in another area. The other thing is just I'm getting such volumes of things. It's becoming more of a challenge to locate and fulfill things in a timely manner. I still can find it, but it's not like I got 3 tubs and everything's in 3 tubs. No, I've got several different racks of tubs and different places where the items could be. And if somebody buys 10 items and there's a different alphanumeric code in every one of those titles, that means those items are going to be spread out in 10 different places. So it doesn't take me 30 seconds or a minute to fulfill that order. It might take me 15 minutes to fulfill that order based on the volume of things that I have. So there are some things I need to clean up.
Yeah, and you think about, I worked for an electrical wholesaler years and years ago in a training program right out of college, and we had this massive warehouse that was completely automated, and we're constantly trying to find stuff that you're like, wait, it's supposed to be in this bay or in this bin, and it's not there. So that happens at no matter how you scale that, that's a problem. There are a lot of these little problems that come along in our business life that we just have to adjust to. Now, we don't want to spend the whole show talking about that because we're going to spend lots of time talking about taxes and other things in some upcoming shows. As a sort of a announcement, if you will, we are going to be doing our first ever live broadcast where we're going to stream a show. We're going to come on probably 6 or 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time so people on the West Coast can join us if they want. We don't have an exact date, but it will be in the next 6 weeks. And if you are interested and have questions that you want answered, you will be able to send the questions to us, and we will do the very best, mostly Matt, do the very best to answer those questions. It probably won't last an hour. I don't know yet. We're sort of working out the actual framework of it, but we will be doing the very first ever What Sold
It'll
live
probably
stream.
Be at least an hour. I mean, we regularly hit 45 minutes, 50 minutes without batting an eye.
Asking us questions.
Exactly.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking, it's a little bit of a different show. We're going to be talking about, and we've hinted at it here and there, but both Matt and I run our own little companies and have lots of responsibilities and do lots of different things. And it is very easy. Now, we're talking to you, listener out there, that is pretty much working full-time doing this or running your own business, but even the part-timers could run into this. When do you turn off the spigot? When do you stop and take a break from what you're doing? And what does that look like, and why is that important? So those are the 3 basic ideas we're going to talk about. So Matt, I know this last week has been an interesting one for you, but can you talk a little bit about how, why, and what?
Yeah. So in anticipation of the fact that I was going to have surgery and I was going to have a week or 2 of some limits for me, I preemptively photographed just tons of things, hundreds of things that needed to be listed, with the intention of, okay, I'm going to be just sitting, on my couch or wherever, and I don't have the ability to go down to my workspace. I can just be working on my laptop, or I can be listing things on eBay through the eBay app on my phone. So all I have to do is make a listing or copy one that's already there. I just put the photos, change the title, change the price, whatever. I list them, and I do that all the time. And you know what? I had surgery on Monday. Today is Friday, and I have intentionally, I completely changed course. I've intentionally told myself, don't do any of that. I'm essentially giving myself a week off from work. I had paused my eBay store in the sense that I can continue to list items if I wish, but items that sell during this period of time, I'm not obligated to ship them within my normal shipping window. That doesn't trigger until the end of my quote-unquote time away. So any of you who don't know that, and you're freaking out like, oh, what am I going to do if something sells when I'm gone? There's the thing. It's just called time away, and you can schedule any amount of time from a date and specific time of day to another date and time. You can, during that time, either disallow anything to be sold at all, so it's completely like blocked from buyers, or you can allow them to continue to buy. And for you to continue to list, it only affects the shipping portion, the fulfillment portion. So I did that, but this week I started getting into some stuff. Guys, I got a lot of interests. I have kids, and a lot of my hobbies and things that I care about and used to interact with in life, I sort of put aside because there were other priorities, other things that were important. And I'm only one person. There's only so much time in the day, and a good portion of that day has to be work because I got to help provide for my family. So some of those things go away, and I think whenever there's time in the future, I'll come back to this. I used to be really big into photography. I've always been into music, creating artwork, all kinds of things. And you know what? Reading, writing poetry, reading things. And I sat down on the couch and I pulled out my guitar, one of my guitars, and I said to myself, you know what? You haven't worked on music in a while. And I don't think I've ever shared this before, but I've been playing music since I was like in middle school, high school. I play a number of stringed instruments. I used to write songs. I used to play music. I used to travel around. I haven't performed for anybody in probably over 10 years. It's just, that's about when we, got pregnant with our first child. And so, not that I haven't picked up a guitar and played here and there. I still do it for fun. But man, I've had some songs that I've half written for like 6 years. That's ridiculous.
Right.
You write for a little bit and then you're like, okay, I'll put this aside. And then 3 years goes by and you never went back to it. So I sat down and I started working. I've been working on maybe 5 or 6 songs that I had worked on, and I've been incredibly productive. Surprise! Like I was able to be productive in something that is a passion of mine, something I care about. And it has been I can't tell you how satisfying it has been to work on this stuff. And I've been reading some, and it was like I'm rediscovering some of these things about myself. I'm a creative person at heart. And for those of you who are creative types as well, you'll probably understand what I'm saying when I say that. If you're a creative person and you are in a position where you can't be doing those creative things, it's like a part of your soul is missing. It's like a part of you dies. And so now I have a good family and I have friends and I have lots of other things that I do get to spend time with, but I don't think that I'm my full self, like reaching my full potential, unless I have the time and the space to pull these things out of myself that I may not even know are there. But, I care about it. And so in one of those ways is writing music. And so it's been incredibly fun. And you know what? I don't regret doing that. I don't regret not being able to do some of that work this week because the work's going to be there next week when I come back. And I had set up some things to sell this week. I don't have to fulfill them till next week. There is still some money coming in. But when you sort of set the stage for this conversation, Brandon, you said this is mostly for full-time people, but this could also be people who have full-time jobs in a different arena and then come home and do part-time stuff, because that's an extra thing, right? For them, doing the reselling is extra. For someone who's full-time, it's not extra, it's just their full-time job. And the difference there is that when you don't have a very clear boundary, like a different place that you go to work and then you come home, it's difficult. You have to set that own boundary for yourself, whether you're going to be working into the night, whether, you're going to split responsibilities and you're going to part ways and your spouse or your partner is going to take care of the kids or the dogs or whatever while you go do your other thing. Like that's a boundary and you both have to be in agreement on that, or else there could be some conflict, right? And there has been with me and to be honest with you, my spouse and I, there's been some conflicts through the course of me doing this because especially early on, I had a very difficult time setting boundaries for myself. And part of that reason was I was starting from nothing. I had no capital. And it was like, I need to make more money than this. The only way to do this is to work more.
Yeah.
And so I was working at night. I was getting up. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, couldn't sleep, get up and do some work. And that's not healthy. First of all, it's not sustainable. And it forced my spouse to have to do more work than was really fair for her. That wasn't equitable. And I recognize that now.
Well, let's talk about really quickly, because it is not just simply the way you laid it out in terms of that idea. We all need to have things in our life that re-energize us. Sometimes it's our job. Sometimes it's things we do. There's a guy I listen to named Professor Scott Galvin, who's an economic professor at NYU, does a show called Pivot, a podcast called Pivot. And he says, look, if you want to be successful in life, don't do what you're passionate about, do what you're good at. And that's a fundamentally interesting way to think about it, because I think a lot of people say, oh, I really want to be blah, blah, blah. It's like Matt wants to really play music all the time, but that's not really what puts food on the table at this point.
Not yet. Not yet,
exactly.
Brandon.
But here's the thing, no matter what you decide to do, and I really believe this, I've learned this the hard way as Matt has learned this the hard way. You have to have structure. You cannot say, oh, I want to finish that song. Well, like you said, you started, and then 3 years later, you're like, you have to have a deliverable. I'm a big fan of the deliverable. Like on this date,
timetables.
Yes, we need to have
deadlines.
this done, and whatever that is. And that also includes free time. So you need to say to yourself, okay, I want to have everybody knows it's ever taken time off from work. It's like, feels like it's harder to get ready to take time off from work than actually just do the work, because you're constantly, almost like you're doing it twice. But taking the time to plan is critical. And no matter what you do, especially if you have a full-time job and you're doing this part-time, say you got it as a side hustle, you can't simply say, oh, okay, I've got 2 hours at the end of the day. You probably want to cut that in half and say, well, I'm going to work 1 hour and then I'm going to go have dinner with my family, or I'm going to go read a book, or I'm going to do whatever. I like to think of Rusty as writing poetry. I like you said, it's like roses are red, violets are blue. I got buckets of blood from a dead whatever. I feel like Rusty would be writing poetry like that. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to ask Rusty if he would allow me to share some of his most recent poetry here before too awful long. Well, and that's I know all that's tongue in cheek, but I've learned something through this week, and that is, prior to this experience, I only looked at the idea of taking time off from work from one angle, and that angle was lost time means lost revenue. Yeah. And if I'm not being productive, then that somehow reflects poorly on me as a person. Okay, that was the way I looked at it. I mean, I'm a counselor by education. I know that there are different ways of looking at things, and usually our anxiety and distress doesn't come from the event itself. It comes from the way that we frame it, if you want. And that's one of the counseling. Right. You take a picture, you put a different frame on it, it may look completely different. And so the way that, from a different angle, what I've learned this week is, not only do I not feel bad anymore about taking some time, but I have thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I've been able to step outside of that. I've just been inside of it for so long. I can step back. I've been able to examine some things about my business from a more objective viewpoint, which I think is healthy. It will help me in the future. And also, I'm going to be energized now to go back to work. I'm going to attack it when I get back. And because I got some nourishment, I got some fulfillment for some things that I care about in life that is different than work. And that's a super powerful and healthy thing. And I would encourage people to maybe, if you can, push past or resist what I felt before, which is you can't ever give yourself time off. It's not healthy. I tell myself it's not healthy. I believe it's not healthy. And guess what? Every day I keep doing it, and I still don't give myself time off. And that's my fault. It's almost like I needed someone to give me permission. And, that's not even fair either, because other people have told me, you really need to slow down. And I'm always just like, nope, I go hard. That's what I do. I'm going to go hard. I'm going to work hard until I'm old,
Yeah, and sometimes getting sick, I feel the same way. I'm like, when I get sick, I'm like, well, I need to take a break. It forces you to take a break. Sad to think that you have to wait for a bad cold to take a break, but I think there is something to be said about a forced time of breaking from what you're doing. And, I could just hear people out there saying, well, but, Matt, Brandon, Rusty, what's going to happen to my business if I take time off? I actually believe that your business will benefit from taking the time off. It is hard. I mean, it is so hard as a small business owner. The old saying is, hey, when you work for yourself, you got it's all yours, 24 hours, but you're going to work 12 of that. So it's like you can control your own life, but you work more. I work way, way, way more now than I did when I was working for somebody else. And so it is one of those things where you've got to have that self-discipline. It sounds so counterintuitive, right? Because you're like, well, if I don't work, I'm not going to make money. But you have to have self-discipline to say, how much money do I really need to make? I mean, obviously, if your lights are going to be turned off, you might need to put more time in. I don't know. Well, only you know that.
And I guess what I want to say after all this is that you, listener, if you relate to this idea at all, I give you permission to take that break. Go get that mountain bike out of the garage and ride up that trail that you haven't done in 2 or 3 years, because you've been so take a day, go up and get up to the top of that mountain and look down. Like you have a 30,000 foot view now of your life. Just take a moment and think about it. You can pull yourself out of that situation, do something that you love, and you're going to get some satisfaction there. You know, I do get some satisfaction out of my job, but there are a lot of things that satisfy me in my life that have nothing to do with my work. And it had nothing to do with previous jobs that I've had. There are some things, and you don't have to be a creative person. It's just if you have something that you care about, whether maybe that's going to visit a friend, maybe that's, you know, going to a place you've always wanted to see but never let yourself go. Something like that. I think that those are healthy. I think those are very healthy things. And I've known it, like intellectually, I've believed that, but I still wouldn't let myself put it into practice for some reason. And it has nothing to do with anyone else. It's just me, probably because I'm still working through a little bit of the trauma of losing my job and having to just hustle day after day.
Right.
And I don't have to do that every day now, but I still am acting as if I do. It's like it's like I never got over that, you know?
Yeah. And it's like you wish that you had an easy answer to all this. And somebody wrote, I can't remember where it was or whatever, it was about, we were talking about those people that show those shows where they're like, oh, I went to Goodwill and I found this treasure. It was worth $50,000. It's like, okay, that doesn't happen. And
somebody left a message. I don't know if you saw it. Somebody left a message recently that spoke to that, heard our last episode and said, oh my goodness, I just watched right after, whatever, they listened to our episode about that. They were like, we watched this channel and they found this huge score. And I was calling BS on that. Like, there's no way that clearly was manufactured. And I'm not saying that, don't get me wrong. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that every channel that does that is completely fabricating something, but there is a very close similarity between a lot of these YouTube channels and straight up TV shows. Like, that's a script. Somebody wrote that script. Those are characters, and the things that they're encountering and doing, you know, George Costanza did not do the work on the Guggenheim. You know, that he's not a real person, and he's not an architect. Okay.
Yes.
So it's like these people, maybe they are resellers, but it's the same as me. I'm not actually Rusty. Rusty's a character. You know, there is some tongue in cheek. I'm kind of not taking myself too seriously, and I joke around, but like, that's not who I really am. But I am actually a reseller, and I am actually trying to give you valuable information. So don't believe everything that you see, okay? And like I said before, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. I didn't come up with that expression, but I think it rings true.
Well, there's also a danger to those kind of shows that you as a viewer have to be really, really cognizant of.
Don't rush out to do this thinking that you're going to go find a $20,000 item at Goodwill every time. I read somewhere that they say that, you know, something like 90+% of items at Goodwill are worth $30 or less. So if you want to go to Goodwill and find something that's worth more than $30, you have to have enough knowledge that you're going to find something in that 10% or less, and that you're going to find it before somebody else who goes in there finds it.
And I do think that Americans have a get-rich-quick scheme in there. We're just sort of taught, like, we call it the lottery mentality. Like, I'm going to win. I mean, think about those lottery tickets. It's $1 billion. You have, I read this thing once that said that you have actually a higher percentage chance of being killed by a meteor in your home than winning the lottery. How many people that you've heard of have been killed by a meteor? I'm saying statistically speaking,
I also
it's less.
I don't know what the stat is on people who have YouTube channels that make a living. They make enough money to pay their bills from revenue from YouTube, but it has to also be incredibly small. You know, somebody recently, we were out and there was this 16-year-old and someone mentioned to them that I have a YouTube channel and they looked it up and they're like, they said that I'm famous. I'm like, I'm not famous. Looked at them like, oh, wow, you are famous. You have almost this many subscribers. And I'm like, I'm not famous. And also, I wouldn't even be close. Even though I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, I'm not even close to earning enough revenue to pay even a quarter of my bills. So many young people, especially, they want to be YouTube celebrities. They want to make a ton of money from YouTube. If someone asked me today, hey, should I do a YouTube channel? I'd be like, no, definitely not. Don't do it, because you will work for 2, 3, 5, 10 years without making a single dime. You're going to put in tons of work, tons of time. You're not going to earn anything. And most people will give up. And guess who did make money? YouTube, because they ran ads from your first video all the way until you quit. And guess what? You quit, but you didn't shut down your channel. They're still letting people see your videos and they're still making money off of it.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
And the other part about this is like, it again goes to the business scalability is as this show has grown, as we've done, there are more and more things to do. So but you're not getting more and more income from it. You're just in order to get to the place where you want to. Let's be clear, folks. We like doing this. We're hopeful that this is going to be successful. We're not saying don't, whatever, but because we're obviously doing it every week. We enjoy it, and we're hoping that it's going to be something.
I'm still trying to figure out if it's worth it. Let me put it that way. I'm still on the fence about. I mean, I've joked before that if I just spent the amount of time that I spent on YouTube for the first 3 years, if I spent even just half of the time I spent simply walking around the parking lot of my grocery store looking for loose change, I would have made way more money doing that. So if you're doing it to earn revenue, you're going to have to be incredibly lucky, or you're just so exceptionally talented, more talented than anyone else doing the thing that you're doing. And maybe you are, but it's not this is going full circle what you said. It's not a get rich quick scheme. And if you want to make money in the media worlds, you almost have to be financed by someone. You have to pay somebody else a lot of money. And so you're going to be profit sharing. Guys, every week I get multiple emails. We get emails on the podcast email and also on the emails for Slick Web Media. Just dozens and dozens and dozens of companies wanting to do a sponsorship thing or wanting me to pay them to, we can expand your viewership by blah, blah, blah. It's just like all these people, they're just trying to make money too. I get it. That's their business. But, and maybe I have to do that if I ever want to really grow this. But it gets complicated, and there are also lots of people who want to jump on your shoulders and let you carry them in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm going to push back a little bit on that because on that idea.
Awesome.
No, it's not a pushback, but it's sort of like if I knew what I knew now, I would never have started becoming a professional podcaster. Like if I knew how much work was going to have to go into it when I started this 8 years ago. But here's the weird part about it. When I look back when I look and see what I've been a part of, I'm like, well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it grows on. So yes, you probably shouldn't start that garage band because you're probably statistically not going to be successful.
Well, let me clarify. If you're doing these things to earn a lot of money, I would say you should reconsider.
Exactly.
Because it's very difficult to do that. But if you do it because you care about it, you're passionate, you enjoy it, or you're trying to do something for someone else, or you're good at it, then sure. I mean, those are the reasons really why I keep doing it.
Yeah.
And also, I've learned so much through this process, which I think you just alluded to for yourself. I've built myself some interesting skill sets, and I've added a lot of knowledge about a lot of things, and I've learned from a lot of other people, and I'm still learning, and that's really cool. So, if you want to learn and you enjoy seeing new things, meeting new people and stuff, then that is a good reason to resell. I mean, reselling part-time, you can make money. So we kind of got off in the rabbit hole of creating media and creating content. Right. But to bring it back to the whole purpose of this podcast, which is to talk about the buying and selling, you certainly can make money doing it. But back to our original point, don't get lost in the trenches.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck there. You don't have to sit there and eat rats and whatever like they did in World War I. Like, get out of that. Get out of that trench and go for a vacation. Like, give yourself a break.
Yeah.
Because you'll come back with a completely fresh new perspective and you'll have energy. That's been my experience this week.
Yeah, and I want to say that it's really important. You've all heard this, so this is not new information, but have a plan. Plan for the times that you need to take off. Plan for how, I want to do these things, but I only have so much time. And you look at your day and you say, I need downtime. I need an hour. My wife knows that I need an hour every day just to read, just to shut my brain off for a little bit. You need to build that into your schedule. You can't, in a sense, it's like saving money. They always say, did your plan fail or did you fail to plan? And in a sense, it's the same thing. It's like if Matt and I didn't do the work we've been doing, we wouldn't be where we are. But if we did the work that we were doing to make millions of dollars, well, that's dumb.
Right.
what you said about learning from it is the key, and that's the whole purpose of this show. We want people to engage in that and say, we do a Reddit subreddit. I haven't really promoted or pushed it yet, but I really want people from this show to get on that Reddit. And the reason is because I do think we have a lot to learn from each other. And if you haven't been on Reddit can be, a crazy rabbit hole too. But our entire reason for doing the Reddit is so that other resellers can talk to each other and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. These are the items that I'm seeing that are selling or not. And here's one last point. I think this is really important. I think the reason why that you are successful, it's a little bit philosophical, Matt, so bear with me, is that I love that you call people cousins. That we're all in this together. Like, if it's just about a dog-eat-dog world and I'm just trying to get something from you, then you're not my cousin, right? My cousin Eric, great guy. I would never, ever screw him over in a business deal. I love him, right? But that's your cousin. And if you think about everybody in that way, you might not make as much money in the short term, but you're going to be a better person for it in the long run.
Well, and everyone's going to have something. I think that our world, whether it's very obvious or very subversive, our Western culture seems to be so much about gaining wealth or power at the expense of other people. Get yours.
Right.
And use whoever or whatever you need to get that. And you're right. If we viewed everyone as family, then we would not feel okay doing that. And I think that that's a lesson to us in this world. And goes back to why I don't try to just haggle people and get quick deals. I want to build relationships with people, because in the world I want to live in, I want to leave these interactions and having felt good about what I got out of it, and them having felt good about what they got out of it. I want it to be a win-win, if at all possible. It shouldn't be me walking away feeling good about taking advantage of them and them not knowing it until later or ever. That's not the world. That's not how I want to interact with people. And I hope that comes across on our YouTube channel, on the channels, and on this, is that, guys, it's great to do things to make a little bit of income for your family, but this is not about being rich. This is not about making more. This is not about taking advantage of other people. I mean, I'll give tips sometimes to show how I strategize and how that helps me at times. And feel free to call me out if you ever notice that I'm being hypocritical and something pops up. I really want to know, because I want to be able to live out the things that I'm saying. I think that there is a place where we can all do better for ourselves when it comes to buying and selling things. And I want the person purchasing the item to be happy with what they got, or the person who sold it to me to be happy with what they earned at the same time.
Yeah, that's a really good word. One of the reasons that we're talking about this week is because Matt has had a forced stoppage in work, and we're sort of doing a little bit of a different show, in the sense that we're not going to show what sold this week, because
it's kind of like what didn't sell. Why didn't it sell? Because I didn't do any, and some things did sell, but the idea is, like, sometimes it's okay to not sell. Sometimes it's okay to take care of yourself. Sometimes it's the most important thing is to take care of yourself. And don't wait until it's a crisis. Don't wait till you're having panic attacks and you don't know why. Check in on yourself a little bit more often than that. Get feedback. You're not there. I don't believe there's anything such thing as a self-made person. I just do not believe it. Anybody who gets ahead or has the plans that they're able to see come to fruition had the assistance of somebody else. That's just how it is. I couldn't do this podcast without you, Brandon. I couldn't have had the success on the YouTube channel without Peaches, without my spouse being okay with me taking the time, without my children sacrificing some time with Dad so that I could do it, without people who had stores at prices that made sense for me to buy so that I could buy those things and sell them. Like, I'm not a self-made person. I got into this job out of desperation because I lost a job, which is not the position that I think anyone listening should get into this type of business. But I didn't have a choice, or rather I chose to do this out of desperation rather than something else, but I didn't come into it with a plan of action. And so I'm where I am because a lot of people helped me along the way. And that is a big reason why we do this podcast, a big reason why we do the YouTube, is that there are other people out there not as in dire circumstances as I was. And frankly, I wasn't in terribly dire circumstances because I'm blessed to have family and friends and things that if I was at, the end, they would help me through financially, luckily. But if you're in a situation like you can do this type of work, it's not that hard. And you just don't let it become your entire life.
Yeah,
because that's not healthy.
And we're going to be doing a series of shows about, and some things coming up. I mentioned there's some things coming up, but about how do you start? Like Matt started out of desperation and was saying, but there was a whole lot of lessons learned along the way, which is what you've been showing people and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to start with the baseline of day one, man. You're starting the business.
Yeah.
And what do we do? So we're really looking forward to that. We're looking forward to kind of continuing this journey. We hope we do it for a lot longer, but like Matt said, you just never know.
Mm-hmm.
Keep the comments coming. It's great to hear from you guys. Remember, if you want to email us at whatsoldpodcast@gmail.com, we're always there. Can't promise we're going to answer you right away because we're both obviously slammed busy with a million different things, but we do really appreciate it. Tell a friend. It really helps us. Our show has been growing. I tell Matt the metrics all the time. It's like, I'm always amazed. I'm like, I can't believe that many people are listening. So, it's cool.
It's cool.
We know that it's not for everybody, but we know that it's for somebody. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to us. We'll be back with a brand new show next week. And we look forward to sharing more ways to make money selling.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.